Hey people, thank you for joining me today. And we've been celebrating our Springboks victories in the recent rugby competitions that have been taking place. So I'm saying thank you guys, thank you Springbok boys for just giving us something to cheer about in our country. There's not a lot out there to cheer about until we watch you guys. And so thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate your victories and the way that you do the game. I want to continue in the book of James, if you will. We're in James chapter 4 still. And I want to read this to you in the light of what we've spoken about last week. It says this, but he gives us more grace. More grace. As if he hasn't given us enough, he gives us more grace. But it says this, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Listen further. Submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Don't you just love it about the fact that God isn't a God of incredible abundance. He just never stops giving. He never stops providing. He's just a remarkable God who just meets all our needs, and he meets us at the point of our need. And here is this need for grace. Now, there are different kinds of grace, and I want to spend a day or two just talking about that. But this grace comes sometimes at a price. You see, God is so desirous of giving us grace, he will do anything in our lives in order for us to reach out and say, God, give me grace. God, give me grace. Sometimes he uses pain in order for us to be able to get there. Now, we read in that passage just now that God gives grace to the humble. If there's something that will humble you, it's pain. Pain in relationships, pain in work, pain in wherever you are. Pain is a great leveler of people. And it's to these people that God gives great grace. But pain comes through the word that is spoke there about submit yourselves to God. Whenever I think of submitting, I think of the wrestlers who are out there, and they wrestle and they try and get each other into a position where they're inflicting pain upon the opposition. And then the guy who's had the pain inflicted upon him will tap, and he will be released because he's submitted because of pain. Now, I know that's a stupid analogy, but it's a good one, isn't it? How that God sometimes takes us through painful positions. He wrestles with us, and we wrestle with him. We want our own way. We have pride. We want things our way, and God says, you're not going to get it your way. I love you too much to let you get it your way. And we're going to wrestle until pain has passed its test and pain has taken its course, and you submit to God. And sometimes some of us need to tap out and say, God, you've taken me through enough pain. Now I'm going to submit to your will and your perfect purpose and your way for my life. Thank you for the pain. Now, I don't know how many examples of that there are in the Bible, but my mind straight away goes to the prodigal who went away, and he thought that he could do things his own way. He was proud, he was arrogant, he had everything going for himself. He had his inheritance that he had taken early, and he went out there and he was strutting his stuff. And God looked at that and said, no, that's not cool. You don't do that. And so pain was the net result of him utilizing and using his pride. And pride often ends with a painful fall, as it did with him. And when he was so humbled and in such pain, he said he came to his right senses, the scripture says, and he said, man, I'm done. I'm submitting to God. I'm giving up on this thing of my own pride, and I will return to my Father. And I will say to my dad, Father, I've sinned against heaven and against you, and I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. Please forgive me and give me grace. Yes, that's a beautiful story, that God gives grace, but he only gives it to the humble. And sometimes pain is the resource that God uses in order to humble us. I just made a list of some stuff here of what the 3 things that pain does. Pain does not know its own need. It doesn't. Sorry, pride. I'm talking about pride. Pride does not know its own need. Pride is saying, I can do this on my own. I don't need anything else. I'm proud. I can handle this stuff on my own. Secondly, pride cherishes its own independence. I want to do this and I want to do it my way. I don't need anybody else. I don't need God. I can handle this on my own. And then thirdly, pride doesn't recognize its own sin. In that story of the prodigal, he didn't recognize his own sin until he was in pain. So think about this today, people. Let's make sure that if we're in pain, it's pain that maybe God has inflicted because we've actually inflicted it upon ourselves. And let's make sure that we use that pain for a good purpose. God gives us grace. He gives us more grace. And I want to talk about that this coming couple of days. So have a great day. But if you're in pain today, check it out why you're in pain. Maybe you need to submit to God, and He will welcome you home by pouring upon you more and more grace. I didn't say that. That's what the scripture says. Revel in the grace of God. Have a great day. Bye-bye.